Okay, so I'm Ross McLean, and I am one of the co-founders of a company called Over the Shoulder. Over the Shoulder is a smartphone-based qualitative research platform that we have been building and developing and lovingly caring for and teaching people about for about 9 years. That's sort of what gets us into the order of the day, which is Big Qual, the rise of Big Qual. Because as soon as Big Qual starts rising, another thing starts rising, and that is loads and loads and loads of data. And I can already see from people's expressions that we have experienced this. And because it's 2017, that leads us to technology and artificial intelligence and how that could potentially be helpful and what the opportunities there are, and lots of questions about it. Okay. Before I start, I'm going to tell you I am not a tech skeptic. I am a big believer. My two passions are human story and insight and technology. I'm really geeked about it. I'm not skeptical at all. That's why I love the line of work that I ended up in. And I think there's going to be wonderful opportunities coming up. And I'm going to do a little bit of a poll as we go along. So I believe that in the next 10 years, I will drink a cocktail prepared by and served by a robot. Who thinks they will do that in the next decade? All right, good. I also think I will ride in a self-driving car. Who thinks they'll be stepping into a self-driving car? So most of us, we had a little bit of not quite sure about it. How about this one? Manned mission to Mars, begin. Obviously, it's not going to be done by then, but in the next 10 years, yeah, not as many for that. Head transplant? No, that one's just, I think that one's a little bit further out. But there are people who would tell you that that is absolutely within the realm of possibility. So those are the things that I think will happen in the next decade. I'll tell you one thing that I think will not happen in the next decade, and that is artificial intelligence and software that can do qualitative analysis and reporting on a level that even approaches what an experienced, trained human brain can do. I don't think we're going to see that. And that's where we get into jetpacks. When I started to sort of move toward the technological part of the field, away from being a qualitative researcher and a really passionate one, I was charmed by this saying, "Dude, where's my jetpack?" Do people say that? Have you heard this? Okay, wow. So Isaac's heard this one. Yeah, so that's what you say when what you mean is, gosh, I love technology, it's awesome, it's amazing what this stuff can do, but gosh darn it, it doesn't exactly deliver on the things that I most want in the way that I expect them to. Dude, where's my jetpack? Technology was supposed to have given me a jetpack by now. I thought that was like first on the list of things that we were going to get. Not even going to happen. So AI and software that's going to do this for us is a jetpack, and we're going to be waiting for that for quite a while. Okay. Now I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to tell you why we spend so much time figuring this out and trying to figure out, okay, well, what can technology do for us? I've talked about with Over the Shoulder. We started this about 9 years ago. We were qualitative practitioners that very passionate, very traditional in our approaches, but we had that nagging sense that people aren't good at remembering their motivation or their behavior. And when I'm talking to people after the fact, I'm probably missing insight that I could have got if I'd been there in the moment. But you can't do 100% in-home interviews, so you miss some of that stuff. And in 2009, smartphones came along, and we got really excited because we said, everyone's going to have one of these, and it's going to be with them all the time, and here is our chance to be there and capture those experiences that are actually happening. So we went out and we tried to find existing technology that would do that, and it wasn't there. So we said, we're just crazy enough to design this and build it, and off we went. And at that point, we were the actual practitioners. We were doing our own analysis, we were reporting on it, we had end clients that we did this stuff for. We did 414 projects, 36 countries, 152,000 days of in-the-moment qualitative. And we figured out how to design and execute and sift through all this stuff. I always say we bumped into every sharp object out there, but in the process we learned how to avoid them and help other people avoid them. Because what we did is we applied everything that we learned into the software and into the platform. So we pushed really hard on user experience and operations and recruiting and innovative and powerful methods. And here we get to it, better analysis tools, because we knew right away that that's important stuff. Chapter 3, 2011, we shifted the business. We finally got smart and we said, hey, lots of people love smartphone qualitative, lots of people want to be doing it. If we were smart, we would follow our passion and develop this software and take all the experience that we have in terms of operations and design and all that type of stuff and let every qualitative practitioner out there add smartphone qualitative to their toolkit and make it really easy for them to be really successful at it. So we now do that in terms of platform, design, project management, recruiting, and operations, and we spend a lot of time going, okay, how do we analyze this stuff? How do we parse through it? How are we gonna figure this stuff out? So that's what puts us asking a lot of questions and talking to a lot of people and experimenting with a lot of pieces of software and technology to try and figure that stuff out. So I'm going to give you a quick video just so you can get a sense of a flavor for how this stuff works.
Welcome to the Over-the-Shoulder Project Viewing Portal. We designed the Over-the-Shoulder app specifically for the smartphone, so participating is incredibly easy and intuitive. Result? You can truly ride in people's pockets and purses and get unprecedented access to everyday moments that other mobile methodologies can't even get close to. But we didn't stop there. We also designed a project viewing portal specifically for smartphone qualitative, so you and your team see, hear, and feel your consumer in a whole new way. There's a dashboard that makes it easy to see and manage your project. You monitor project and communicate instantly with your participants. You can even ask probes and follow-ups in any media you'd like. We created a unique Lightbox tool that lets you review, rate, tag, and sort responses with incredible efficiency. You have transcripts, translations, and participant stories right there at your fingertips to make digging deep and finding the story faster than ever. And you can see the whole story right down to the time and place the moments are truly happening. We designed tools like Matrix View, modeled after tried and true qualitative analysis techniques, so analysis feels intuitive and familiar, and added on a layer of innovative digital horsepower to make them faster and super efficient. And the analysis workbench lets you search text, transcripts, and tags with blistering speed. So it's simple to get back to the photos, audios, and HD videos that let you bring your story to life. Come and see how Over the Shoulder and the Project Viewing Portal can help you bring your team and your clients into the everyday world of your target audience like never before.
Right, so that's what it looks like in action. And you can imagine, I'm going to back up so I don't steal my own thunder. There's a lot of video and a lot of audio, and by the way, a lot of geolocation and contextual and timestamp and photo and all sorts of data like that. And that's when you're talking about, a typical project where you've got 40 diabetic moms journaling about how their condition affects their life in confessionals and all sorts of stuff like that. You get a lot of data out of a small project, and that's before we've even gotten to big qual. Now we're helping people do things like this study, which I thought was really fascinating, but it's a big, complex one. So this was a fast food company that wanted to better understand, okay, what are the exact moments where the decision gets made that today, I'm not taking a packed lunch, I'm going to wherever. How do they decide where all the dynamics of where they're going? When they get there, what do they think they're gonna do? And how do they think they're gonna experience that? And then immediately after, once they've gone through the drive-through or they've ordered, did they order what they even expected to? What drove those changes, and what things about store builds and drive-throughs and suggestions and POP and that kind of stuff actually influenced it? So that's wonderful stuff, because you can now go through those 3,000 occasions. You can now go through and say, okay, there's this segment of people, give them a name, they're having this type of an occasion. Here are the quantitative dynamics that drive it in terms of menu choice and factors and party composition and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, here's a video that's a compilation of 10 people in that segment, in that occasion, and exactly how that goes down in human terms. Wonderful stuff, but 3,000 fast food occasions took 800 people over 14 days, and each one of those occasions, just the occasions, and it wasn't just all about occasions, but just the occasions, had about 5 minutes worth of audio or video content in them. So 3,000 times 5 minutes is 15,000 divided by 60. Uh-oh, that's 250 hours of stuff that somebody has to go through. Just if you went straight flat through it. Okay, so you can see why we are very motivated to try and figure out how technology can be leveraged so that it makes that more efficient and makes it more powerful. That's where that's coming from. So we looked into it really hard, and I don't say it's a jetpack lightly, because we push really hard to figure out, okay, how do we solve some of these things? But we realized that this notion of actual analysis and reporting being done by software and AI is not going to happen, and there are 4 big factors that drive it. One of them is the complexity of data sets. I love this quote, talking about artificial intelligence, any area that involves more data than humans can handle on our own, but which involves decisions simple enough that AI can actually get somewhere with it. This surprised me. We talked about driving in self-driving cars. The AI community considers this to be a relatively easy challenge. So we've had, 2010, at least for the last 5 years, you've had Google, Apple, Intel, Microsoft, Ford, Mercedes, tons of other players pouring billions of dollars and hiring the best brains out there trying to crack this easy problem. And we're 2 to 5 years away from a car that any of us would probably jump into, and that's being kind of generous. And the reason for that is that when you're talking about cars and you're talking about self-driving, you're dealing with objective, structurable, categorizable data, right? So if your car is driving down the highway in auto mode, or it doesn't even have auto mode because it's completely driverless, it is collecting facts, ton of them. It has the destination data that you put in. It has your satellite information. It has data coming from other cars. It has weather reports. It has capabilities of how that car handles and what it can do and what it can't. And then it has sensor data from LiDAR and radar and visual sensors and other sensors planted all around the car. So you have massive, massive amounts of data, but it's objective and it's structurable. So if the front bumper LiDAR sensor says the car in front of us is 14.925 meters away, and the other sensors agree with that, that's a fact, and that's categorizable, and that is much easier to handle than lots of other types of data. And it knows, okay, I know my speed, I know that car's speed, I know the weather conditions, I know how quickly this car could brake, I know what the speed of the car behind me is, how far it is away from me. Do I have lanes that I can escape to? What's the condition of it? It knows all of this stuff. And what you get when you have that is you have a massive amount of data, but you have it categorizable. That means that you can start plugging it into algorithms and merge it with all the test data from cars that have been driving around on the roads for 2 or 3 years, and you can actually employ machine intelligence to start doing that job for you, true artificial intelligence. Okay, take it over to qualitative research. So remember, we had to get a structured, objective database, and then we had to start running modeling through it and running data through it. So take a video that you've collected of a participant. Let's just work on the audio channel for a second. In order to get to the point where this very difficult challenge of self-driving cars already is, we would have to first of all figure out, okay, we've got to understand what that person's saying. We have to be able to transcribe it and translate it. And if you've used machine-based transcriptions and translations lately, you know that we're not even there yet with that stuff. And then just think of the other factors you'd have to put in, okay? Have to be able to figure out if this person might be being sarcastic or embarrassed, or if they're using a metaphor, what that metaphor means within that culture, within that context. The intonation, the volume level of their speech, all these things of what they potentially mean. You have to put all of those things together, and that's just the audio channel. Every qualitative researcher knows that when you are doing an interview, most of the stuff that you're getting isn't what they say, it's stuff that you're observing. So now you've got the immensely more complicated task of bringing video and other data streams into that. And you end up with complex databases that no computer can possibly push you through. And you also haven't solved one of the big issues that you have to get around, which is rules. Because remember, the physical realities that are making the decisions and gathering the data for that car are, they're objective. They are speed limits and altitudes and distances and things like that. And we all agree on what those mean. How many people see a duck? How many people see a rabbit? Okay, so I'm showing a bunch of qualitative researchers this simple thing, and we can't agree on what it is. Now imagine that I showed each one of you 1 minute of video. We would have people who would say, I saw an eye roll and a sigh and a shrug, and maybe a bit of a grimace, and I interpret that as meaning this person's disconnected or whatever else. Somebody else might say, I see someone that has indigestion, and I don't put any kind of meaning to it. We would have to literally write a book on, here's what all of those things mean, agree to it, and then we could start the process of employing artificial intelligence to help us figure out that stuff. So it's a big jetpack for that reason. You would very quickly run out of processing power in computers, because as strong as Moore's law is, data sets that large with that much variability would choke them off very quickly. And then the last thing is the relatively low priority for investment that this is going to have. So if you want to figure out what resources are going to be applied to what technologies in what order, you just do this. You go, how much money is it worth? How many people want it? How bad? Tons or not that many? And how hard is it? And that's why you see Pandora 15 years ago was using machine learning to give you a private radio station based on your preferences. Easy and big market. Fraud detection for your credit card, they got into that fast because that's billions and billions of dollars and not that difficult. And then you get AI in video games and the AI that drives Siri or Alexa or Cortana or whatever they are. Driverless cars are there. Anyone want to guess where qualitative research analysis would be? So, wah, wah, wah. We're going to have to find other ways to employ technology because this stuff is going to be a while before it's going to happen. As always, sci-fi knows the answer. Jens, if you will play this. Whoops.
I got 6 licenses. Where do you want? Over here, please. Foxhole 4421 Gainsborough.
Send a DCPD blue and white. Set up a perimeter and Tomaron room.
Investigator from what he's doing now, we call scrubbing the image, looking for clues as to where the murder's gonna happen.
Original running bond brick pattern, streamlined early Georgian details. Brick has been repointed. Look at this kid. This one is on the left side of the man in the suit.
Yes? So?
This one is on the right. There you go, man. It's parked.
Okay, so the volume on that wasn't that loud. Everyone saw Minority Report? Can you believe that came out 15 years ago? To me, that's really interesting stuff because this is sci-fi. And what you saw happening there was not a computer figuring out the answer. I wish you could have heard it more clearly, but it went through, and he finally cracked it by going back and forth on 2 images. And they had a kid facing this way in one picture, and then this way, the other picture. And he said, where does that happen? Merry-go-round. The murder's happening at the park. Let's go and stop it. All right? So did the computer do that? No. The computer made it really easy for all those data streams to be manipulated and for that person to get immersed in it. But that person figured out the answer themselves. Even sci-fi does not think that this is going to be a possible challenge. So that really focuses it in. And what I'm going to do to wind up is to talk about, if we feel that this is a jetpack and qualitative analysis is going to be performed by the minds of analysts for at least another decade, what can we do with technology that will make it helpful? What should that relationship be, and what should we be trying to build and look for? And I love this quote. Think of AI as a technology as helping qual analysis in the same way that Photoshop aids an art director. Right? Photoshop doesn't tell you what to draw or what feeling or what emotion to try and evoke. It just makes it easier for you to do that. And that's really the driving mantra of how we go after this stuff. So the first thing is, hey, if these brains are going to be overworked, those brains cost a whole lot of money and they're pretty rare that can do this kind of work. So let's get all of the collateral stuff that has to be done out of it, and let's get that brain neck deep in the richest part of this data set as efficiently and quickly as possible. That's what drives how we develop all of these tools. And a couple examples of how that happens, you can use AI because you can pre-digest data with transcription and translation, and even some coding and tagging, all right? So AI does a really nice job of that. And the way that we've done that so that you get the benefit of it, but you still have that sort of personal control, is this is a window that's within our project viewing portal, which is the analysis tool that we've built. And it is showing you the video and letting you control that. It's showing you the participant and their background. It's got a participant story. Abby's taking a year out of work before going to college that you can add to iteratively as you see each additional thing. So this is the context on Abby. It is showing you transcription or translation, and it's got a tagging system that you can see is being used to say, okay, here are the topics that are being covered. Here are the things that she's talking about. And then even, here's how we rate this. This is 4 stars. This is good stuff. And those little eyeballs there is a tag that you can put on that I can have a mid-level or even a junior qual researcher and analyst go through that 250 hours of stuff and put those eyeballs with my name on them on the things that are actually important for me to see. Report in on everything else. Okay, so now I can go and search by that and search by everything that's 4 stars that I was alerted to that talks about this brand, that brand, or contains these words in the transcript. And all of a sudden, you've got something that's not that far away from Minority Report and is really, really powerful. We also, insert plug for, it's supposed to be Q3 here. We get these ideas from a project that we have that's called Qualitative Research with qualitative researchers on how they do qualitative research. Anyone who wants to participate, if you would like to be interviewed for this, we do it on an ongoing basis. And we ask lots of questions about how your mind works and where your ideas and insights come from, right down to a situation where we'd say, think of the last time you had a moment where you went, I've cracked something. Let's go back to exactly what you were doing, what you were thinking, what you were looking at. Where did that idea come from? Were you looking at transcripts? Was it in the actual group? Was it in the shower after you cogitated about this for ever and ever? Was it in a discussion with somebody? Where did they come from? Because we want to make the digital version of the tools that are actually getting people to the insights. And I'll show you one example. I think I got time for one example before we jump off there. So we had a lot of qualitative analysts and researchers say, I get a lot of insight moments when I'm just deep in the data, and I pull out a piece of graph paper, and I write all the names of all the participants down one side. I see people nodding, going, yes, that. And then I put all the key topics and questions and things that I want to understand across the top. And then I start filling it in. And that's where I go, what's driving this is actually geography or brand usage or how long they've been using the brand. The big difference here about the emotionality of the experience is people who've been with this brand for a long time think of it this way, younger people who haven't think of it in another way. So we just took that and said, okay, a computer can do that about 100 times faster than a person with a piece of graph paper, and it can do it better because you can play videos and see transcripts and scroll all the way back and forth and resort and restack stuff. So that's really just a qualitative analysis technique on digital steroids. And we do Q3 so that we can keep that feed coming and we can keep going, okay, what is going to be really familiar and intuitive and powerful and helpful? And then the last thing is we do actually use tools where we can to help visualize and point out things that you might not notice. So this is a very simple one, and I don't think it's probably very insightful. But they were asked, as they were making an outfit change, what one word describes this outfit and how it makes you feel. And it just word clouds it. That's all pretty interesting, pretty expected stuff. But if it said powerful in there, or if it said sexy, or if you saw some combination of words, that would alert you to go, wait a minute, I don't remember hearing that. Let's go back into that and let's see where this disparity is coming from. Or maybe it's not a disparity. So that's about all I have time for. I think I've got time for a couple questions. And as a special parting gift, I give you jetpacks.
Do you have any questions for Ross? I actually have one, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah.
I know that you already said that you do international work. You've done work in at least 36 countries. That was like round one, so it's probably even more than that at this point, I would say. Is your Q3 initiative also taking into consideration international thing? Just as a story, which leads to my question, is once I moved to France 6 years ago, and I was working in a French market research agency, and I was doing analysis on some qualitative research, my French colleague said, that's how Americans do analysis?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you're building in kind of multiple techniques into your approach.
I don't know that we have that much of an international perspective on it. We've got a bit. I'd sure like to have more if you know anyone who wants to.
I sure do.
To do that, because I think that's fascinating. I know I was trained in the UK when I came over to the US, and I noticed that. There was different ways of getting at stuff. So, yeah, I wouldn't say we're there yet, but you can help us.
I can.